What's up, Flannelverse? We are back, ready to go for the Thursday night 6-game NBA slate. Should be a fun slate, starting with, we got the Bulls. In the very first game of the slate, we got Atlanta, Indiana. A lot of good stuff going on this slate. We're going to break down the DFS slate, but before we do that, going to take a look at the Unabated Pick'em tool to find some good plays on underdogs, pick'em stuff. We'll take a look at Pick 6, PrizePicks. If you're in chat and you have any requests for different sites you want to look at, happy to look at whatever. Just going to spend some time using the Unabated tools. And of course, coming off last week, I made exactly one card just using the top plays on the tool. I made a 4-pick card, went 4 for 4. So that was fun, getting a 7.7x on my return. Unfortunately, that was the first time I have played just $10. In the past, I've used the tool. I've put in $50. I've missed one, whatever. And finally, I was like, all right, you know what? I didn't work a lot this month. I'm just going to put $10 on this one. So I put $10 on it, made 77. Regretful that was, I think, the lowest I've ever put on. Maybe not. Maybe I put less on, but usually put a little bit more on. So that was a bit unfortunate. But we did. We got it. Hopefully somebody out there tailed using the Unabated tools. Steven, good to see you back after the late night last night, Steven. 3 hours with Fast Eddie Fear. By the way, if you haven't checked that out, I'm sure if you're checking out an NBA show, there's a good chance you're familiar with Fast Eddie Fear. Had a good time spending 3 hours chatting with Fast Eddie about NBA DFS, the state of NBA DFS. Just a general discussion there was a good time. Good to see you, Tyler, as well. Emo Cowboy. All right, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the Unabated tools, what they are showing right now. We still got hour and 20 minutes until lock. I'll probably go until lock, so I'll start just looking again at the Unabated stuff. I will download their projections, upload those into Rotogrinders, and we'll take a look at what the projections are giving us. I've already set this at 20%. So I'm using the Pick'em tool. You can set how much you want your results to be based on the Unabated NBA projections versus market-based projections, which is looking at other books, comparing like what are the best books saying the good line is for this player. You can kind of get an idea of where they're projecting players for assists, rebounds, what have you. So I'm doing 80% using Unabated NBA projections, 20% using the market-based projections. What the market is telling us is efficient numbers for these players. That's where I'm going to start here. And I'm going to start at Underdog, which I believe is typically the best lines here. Typically, you can find the biggest edge at Underdog from what I've heard. So we're going to start there. Josh Giddey, you can see lower than 16.5 rebounds plus assists is the top bet on the board here. So I'm going to put that one in. And by the way, last week I had to sign into Underdog and missed out on one pick. Would have been 5 for 5 if I had just done it in time. Sadly, I missed out on one. You do lose these pretty quickly. So I'm going to try and go quick here. So let's see. Josh Giddey, lower than 16.5 rebounds plus assists. We're going to go Matas Buzelis, lower than 7.5 rebounds plus assists. It's a couple Bulls to start, have to add another team. Amen Thompson, lower than 1.5 blocks. You can see the projection is 1.4, but still 13% edge here. And you can see when you click in the picks over here, you can see the probability of this pick hitting. So not too far off from where we were last week. We don't have quite the same edges, I think, at the top that we had last week, but kind of going deep here with some pretty decent edges. 65.5% probability of the Josh Giddey to hit, 64% the Buzelis. Will add in the Amen Thompson lower blocks, which has a 61.5% chance of hitting. Then we'll throw in a Zion. What do we want to do here? Lower points plus rebounds or points plus assists? I'm going to go lower on points plus assists here. No, I'll just take the better edge. There's bigger edge on points plus rebounds, 7.8%. So I'll throw that one in there. And there you have it. These are the top 4 picks, 54.4% total edge on those 4. We're down to 60% with the Zion. Do I want to throw in one more Zaire Williams? Let's do it. Let's throw in, or we could do a higher. We don't have a single higher in here, so maybe it'll be fun to mix things up. Let's go with the higher rebounds for Kevon Looney. 4.5 is the number. There we go. Total edge, 81%. So I'm going to try and play this one real quick. So we're going Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis, both rebounds plus assist lowers. It's 15.5. I think I had the number 16.5. So I don't want to play that. Let's see. Yeah, it was 16.5. So I'm going to remove that one. Sad. Okay. Do we still have lower than 17.5 points? Check that one out. Nope, that's down to 16.52. So sadly, you can see how quickly these things move. Better to use the tools on your own more quickly than I'm doing it here. So we're not going to be able to play either of the giddies. I'm just assuming points plus rebounds plus assists has moved as well. I'll check it. 32.5 points plus assists plus rebounds. I believe that was the number. Yeah, so we'll take that one. Not as good as not as juicy as the top ones, but still 8.7% edge on that one. That gives us a 63% edge overall. So let's see if we can get the Buzelis under 7.5. That one's still there. All right. Almond Thompson lower than 1.5 blocks. Is it still there? Yes, it is. And I have no idea if they're factoring in they're not getting a full one there. Zion Williamson lower than 30.5 points plus rebounds. Got that one. And then finally, Josh Giddey under 32.5. Did I do that one already? No, Kevon Looney over 4.5 rebounds I have to add. There we go. There it is. I'm gonna be just do the same bet as last time. We win a little bit more than we did last time, up to $149 if this one hits. It is I guess it's a 5x instead of 4. But here you go. Here is the card that I just put together using the unabated tools. Josh Giddey lower than 32.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Matas Buzelis lower than 7.5 rebounds plus assists. Almond Thompson lower than 1.5 blocks. Zion Williamson lower than 30.5 points plus rebounds, and Kevon Looney higher than 4.5 rebounds. I just put $10 on that one. Not enough edge that I think I want to risk any more than that. So that's what I'm going to play on Underdog. If you feel like tailing, I'm going to check in on chat, see if anybody had any others that they wanted to look at. Steven says he fell asleep before the end. It did. It got long and it got late, but it is worth the listen. We did talk about. Steven had the question of how do we react to Sims and how does that change the marketplace in DFS or the ecosystem in DFS. Steven posed a good question and we talked about that for a bit. So if you didn't get that far, Steven, you can at least get to the question you asked. But it was a fun conversation that did go very long, and you can listen to it now at 2x. So that's cool. All right, let's take a look at pick 6 also while we're here. I guess we can just look at all of these, see if there are any other books that have big edge here. We'll look at PrizePicks. So PrizePicks has a lot of the same, looks like. They actually have a little bit more. They have Tyrese Martin. I don't think I have any money on my PrizePicks, so I'm not actually going to play this myself. But I'll just read off what they have here because this is good info to have. So here are the top picks on PrizePicks. If you want to play there, you've got Tyrese Martin, who is questionable. I don't remember what happens on PrizePicks if a player is ruled out when you have them in. I assume they just move it down a leg. So like if it's a 4-pick card, they'll move it down to a 3-pick without that player. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's my assumption. But they like Tyrese Martin lower than 3.5 rebounds, Jalen Wilson lower than 12.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Matas Buzelis lower than 7.5 rebounds plus assists. These ones all have double-digit edge here. Jordan Yang higher than 5 rebounds plus assists. If you want to play higher, that's a good one to pick. Almond Thompson lower than 1.5 blocks. Trey Murphy lower than 4.5 assists. Matas Buzelis, again, you can't play that together with the other Matas, but lower than 5.5 rebounds. And then, we have 2 more actually, double digits. Dalton Connect lower than 2.5 rebounds, and Zion lower than 30.5 rebounds plus assists. Those are all double-digit edge here. So you could play on PrizePicks if you've got some money on there. Some nice picks here. We'll take a look at pick 6 also. Got a few with double-digit here. What are the hires? We got Jalen Green higher than 7.5 rebounds plus assists is available. We got CJ McCollum higher than 3.5 assists. That seems low for CJ McCollum. That's interesting. And I guess that is. It's a 13% edge. Take the higher there. Trendon Watford higher than 5.5 rebounds plus assists. And then the top picks on the boards, of course, we got some lowers in there as well. Trey Murphy lower than 5.5 assists. Matas Buzelis lower than 5.5 rebounds. Jalen Green higher. We already did that one. Zion Williamson lower than 30.5 points plus rebounds. As you can see, a lot of them have overlapping picks. When you, and it's kind of cool. I like that aspect of the unabated entry builder. When I move from one book to another, if it does have the same number at different books, like so I'll throw this Zion in here, and then I'll throw in Trey Murphy as well. So we throw those two in there. Those are both available, obviously, at DraftKings Pick 6, but then I click over to Underdog. If the same line is available, they're just going to keep it in there in the entry builder. So that's pretty cool. And then they removed the Trey Murphy because it's not available at Underdog. So check it out. If you haven't checked out the unabated tools, they did just discount for the remainder of the year pretty significantly. And you can use promo code Flannel. There's a link in the description of the YouTube video if you're watching this on YouTube to get a discount as well. But I think it's the tools are really cool. I love this entry builder. I, of course, am in Minnesota. I can't sports bet. They have another page for that, which is super useful. They have conditional projections, so you can bet, kind of making an assumption one way or another, player in versus out. They also, as we'll see in a minute here, they do have DFS projections, which I am going to download from Unabated. I will then upload them onto Rotogrinders, their optimizers, so we can take a look at the unabated projections there and kind of go as we go over the DFS slate. They also do they do news slightly faster than everywhere else, sometimes like a minute or two faster, sometimes it's just like 10 seconds, but as far as I can tell, they are the quickest source of getting news, getting new lineups, breaking injury news, stuff like that in their Discord. Lot of cool stuff there. Oh, and honestly, my favorite thing is just that they let you know when they update their projections, which is something that I've always wanted. I just wanted, like, when you make a change, I want to know what changed and why. And like, if the starting lineup changed, I want to know, was this a different starting lineup than we were expecting? If a player is out and they change the projections, I want to know why. And they give you updates. They tell you exactly why they are changing their projections, and they let you know every time they do it in their Discord. So a lot of cool stuff. Check out Unabated if you haven't already done so. But we're gonna move on and talk about the DFS slate. Okay, Steven says I was correct about how PrizePicks works. 5 becomes a 4, etc., etc. Yeah, kind of standard there. I changed the way those when I put a thing up on the screen here, a comment. I changed the way that looks as I was playing around with stuff. I'm gonna have to go back and change it back. It's really small right now. I feel like I liked it better the way it was before. Okay, now. Again, they do have projections for DFS, so I am going to download those, upload them into Rotogrinders. Is it LineupHQ? Is that what they're, whatever? I forget what the optimizer. I think it's LineupHQ is the optimizer. Okay, we're going to go to NBA, and we can go to the props page. You can find the projections here, and as you can see here on the props page, you can click on. So the default is my custom projections. That's obviously not what I'm using. To download their projections, you just click this little download button under premium projections. But they also have, as you can see here, and I guess I have to choose their projections so that I can see the conditional projections here. And here's where they'll tell you what are the odds of a player playing, and then and they have 50% for everybody except for Tatum, 55% here. But then you can toggle them in or out. So let's see, OG Anunoby is in. Justin Edwards is in. I didn't realize he was questionable. That's interesting. Tyrese Halliburton, we're just going to put everybody. Take out Sam Hauser. But you can see on the screen here, you can see the way the numbers change when I put players in versus out. But I don't know what I just did. I'll put Tatum in, and it refreshes all the numbers based on that assumption. But that is for this. I'm going to not turn the conditional projections on for now as I download their projections. I'm not sure if it actually affects how I download it, but I'm just don't want to take a chance there. So I'm going to go Unabated NBA projections. Just click this little download button here. It's going to download. Actually, I'm going to close my other CSVs first. Okay, I'm going to download that. You can't see now that it just popped up. So now I am going to go upload this into Rotogrinders. Here we go. If I go to upload aggregate, and I need to delete my old Unabated so I can put a new one in. All right, and I have to go. So there are you'll see when I upload here, but you do have to make certain changes here into the spreadsheet before you can upload stuff. So I am going to do that. I have to move player tab over. So give me a second here. There we go. I have to change the name of the column from player to name. Got to change the DK points column to F points, I think. I'm going to try that, FPTS. We'll see if that works. And you can't see that I'm doing that. This is all on a spreadsheet. You just have to make a couple of changes to the column names, and now I can say the name of these projections is going to just be Unabated March 6th. We'll see if this works. There are 19 issues with this. So it worked. It did work, but now I can see they show you if there are sometimes naming conventions, probably the junior causing issues here. Usually you don't have to do much here. But yeah, Wendell Carter correct. Vucevic correct. He's out, though. Doesn't really matter. Kristaps also out. Kelly Oubre. They've got the correct Kelly Oubre in there. Lonnie Walker, Ricky Council, Kevin Knox, Gary Payton. Bunch of zeros here, so it doesn't matter. Brandon Boston, Trey Murphy, Şengün, Jabari Smith. Okay, I think we're getting there. Good, we're good. All right, so now I've got the unabated projections in there. Of course, those will probably update as we get news, but that's what we got for now. And how do I get out of here? Here we go, done. All right, so now I can choose unabated projections, and we can take a look at the top point per dollar plays on the slate and the top overall plays at each position. I did finally figure out how to expand my screen so I can see the point per dollar column here without scrolling over. You can close this over here, which I did not realize previously. So that helps a bit by clicking that. Okay. So looking at, and we're going to start at point guard. And let me move my sidebar down to point guards. Okay. So Jared Butler, who we just saw, is questionable. Let me double check the injury report here. Oh, was it Jared McCain? Is that okay? I think it might have been Jared McCain. Or Jared Butler is not questionable. Okay, that's the big takeaway here is I totally read that wrong. Jared Butler, not questionable. That's good. He's an important player on this slate with, as you can see here, Joel Embiid out for the season, Paul George out again, Tyrese Maxey out, Kyle Lowry out. So we should see big minutes here for Jared Butler. 21 is the projection here. I believe he played 25 in the most recent game. Let me double check that. 24 in the most recent game. So I think there's a little bit more potentially meat on the bone there for Jared Butler. We'll see if he gets a start. My assumption is that we're assuming he's not starting, but actually let me double check that. So when was there? That was on the 4th. Looking at Popcorn Machine. Did he start the last game? Which obviously they might make an assumption that's different than what happened in the last game. Okay, so he did not start that last game. Yeah, 24.9 minutes in that game off the bench. And now we have Paul George out. I think there's upside here for 25 plus minutes. He did appear, so he played the entire fourth quarter and half of the third quarter. What was the score here? They lost by 14. Who else closed out? I mean, none of the starters closed out. So I guess that it is pretty reasonable to assume that he won't play as many minutes typically, but was Paul George out? I don't know. I think there's minutes upside there for Jared Butler. But regardless, even in 21 minutes, projecting for more than a fantasy point per minute, 23 fantasy points at 3,500. He is the top point per dollar play, I believe, on the entire slate, not just at point guard. At We also have Peyton Pritchard here. We've got Jaylen Brown out tonight. Just had a huge game yesterday, projected for 33 minutes and 35 fantasy points. So looking like a really strong play once again. What is the total in this one? It's 13.5 point spread. So pretty wide gap there. Pretty big spread between Philadelphia and Boston. So there is obviously some riskier of a blowout, but both looking like pretty strong plays. And then another one, Philadelphia, Quentin Grimes, projected for 36 minutes and 35.5. So just under a fantasy point per minute. Looks really strong. You see the ownership is there. Typically going to be the case for anybody who projects really well, point per dollar. Cole Anthony only projected for 15% ownership. And I should note here, my source for projections and ownership projections are different here, which is, you can kind of find good edge sometimes. If it's sometimes you'll see, Rotogrinders is projecting a player so they're projecting Cole Anthony for just 15% ownership, but it looks like a really strong point per dollar player, a fairly strong point per dollar play using the unabated projection. So if you think those projections are good, it looks like he's going a little bit under owned, but it is worth noting we're using different sources for the fantasy point projection and the projected ownership here, which then I think there's ways to kind of find a little bit of edge there sometimes. Differences of opinions. There's generally some correlation between if a site is using their own projections, their ownership projections are usually going to kind of reflect their projections to an extent. Not always, but because they do look at like around the industry for projections to come up with the ownership projections. But usually there's a little bit of a slant there. But Cole Anthony, great matchup with the Bulls, projected for 26 minutes, 26.5 fantasy points. He's been out for a couple games at least, right? Maybe just one. He last played on the second, only played 23 minutes in that game. He has been volatile, but like pretty good fantasy-wise recently. Jalen Suggs out. He's been playing pretty big minutes sometimes. I guess he's played 33 in this game. Not as many minutes as I thought overall recently. He's just had some really big fantasy games. I've been tracking it because he's on my season long team, and he's done pretty well for me there. But looks like a pretty strong, obviously great matchup. One of the best out there. Still just 112.5 total for Orlando, even against the Bulls, which, man, that seems low. But Cole Anthony looks good. Dyson Daniels looks good. Once again, great matchup. This is going to be the game that I think everybody's going to attack, is the Indiana Atlanta game. You can see it's just a 3-point spread here, and the totals are really high, 125.75, 122.75. But I think it's a game that I'm going to attack too. Like, that's just a really, really strong environment for fantasy points. Dyson Daniels just 6,800. Looks like a really strong point per dollar play at point guard. Pods for the Warriors, 31 minutes, 31 fantasy points. Looks like a strong play at 5,800. Derek White, once again, looks good. He'll look even better if Jason Tatum is out. I think I'm working on the assumption that Tatum is playing today. I think he went through shoot around. And you saw 55% under the unabated stuff. I think it's pretty likely that Tatum plays today, but if he doesn't, Derek White is just going to look all that much better. The game, the spread will go down if Tatum doesn't play. So everybody will look a little bit better there. Tyrese Halliburton, again, that same Indiana Atlanta game, looks awesome. 34 minutes. He's been, man, crushing. Also on my season-long fantasy team, so thank you for that, Tyrese. But 36 minutes, 59 fantasy points in the most recent game, and just look at this stretch here. I mean, he's just been crushing it. Against Chicago, 49, 47 against Miami, 68 against Toronto, 52, 57. He is on a stretch here after, I mean, he was pretty cold for a little while. Recently, just absolutely crushing it. Another great matchup tonight for Halliburton. So he looks good. D'Lo, projected for just 25 minutes, 26 fantasy points. Looks pretty good. Nembhard. Trae Young. Trae Young at just 9% ownership. I mean, that looks like a really strong play to me. I'll get above that 9% on Trae Young for sure. Again, that's just a great matchup, and Trae Young can kind of do it against anybody. So that'll be a spot that I'm targeting, trying to get overweight to the field there. Let's take a look at the top fantasy point overall score. So I'm sorted right now by point per dollar. Let's also look at just the top raw scores. And Trae Young is the top raw score here. Also, I assume the most expensive player. Yeah, the most expensive point guard. Steph Curry, right behind him. Halliburton, Jalen Brunson. Can always play Jalen Brunson. Lakers, I think they've played better defense than expected without Anthony Davis since the trade. Like, we kind of assume their defense is going to go to crap. Actually, I can double check that. Let's take a look at do I not have it open? All right, let's go. 2. Let's take a look at the last 10 games. Defensive rating. Man, they're third in defensive rating over the past 10 games. Yeah, so the Lakers playing pretty good defense, but I still think Jalen Brunson is obviously playable there. Josh Giddey, several players out. We got Lonzo Ball out. Maybe he handles the ball a little bit more. Still doesn't project well at all, but he's projected for sub 1% ownership. Also a tough matchup against Orlando. I don't know. I don't love it, but that 1% ownership is sort of intriguing. Yeah, I think we've talked about point guard enough. We can talk about if anything changes later on. Jonathan Isaac out. Steven says, all right. Is he out in the projections? He is projected for 15 minutes. So where will those minutes go? I guess I can check if Unabated has sent an update to their projections. Jason Tatum available to play. Trae Young available to play. Sam Hauser ruled out. Evan Ingram to be released. This is unrelated to basketball, but I did not see Evan Ingram being released by the Jaguars. That maybe that shouldn't surprise me, but RIP my Trevor Lawrence Evan Ingram stacks in best ball. All right. What was Hauser projected to be in? Let's see. Yeah. Was he even on the injury report? He was questionable. Okay. So we got Tatum in, Hauser out. I mean, wheels up. Obviously, Tatum's going to look good. Pritchard going to look great again. Derek White, a little bit of a bump. I mean, we had Hauser in for what, 30 minutes there? 30 minutes. So that's a lot of minutes that he leaves behind. Makes all the Celtics a bit more appealing. All right. So I'll have to update the projections later. Yeah, they also traded Kirk, or they traded him the what says for a 7th round pick. I was thinking, did they trade him or did they cut him? Yeah, Christian Kirk for a 7th round pick. Pretty interesting. I am working under the assumption that they're going to target somebody else. They've also said really positive things about Brenton Strange this offseason. Like they apparently think Brenton Strange can be a big time tight end for them based on some of the coach speak. So maybe they just really believe in Brenton Strange. But they'll bring in another pass catcher, obviously. I just saw Rob Coakley speculating that it would be Chris Godwin on Twitter, which that would be interesting. I've been working on the assumption that he would sign with the Bucks again because they extended his time frame for re-signing, but I don't really have my finger on the pulse of NFL wheeling and dealing in the offseason. But yeah, somebody will come in there. All right. Shooting guards. I'm going to sort again by point per dollar. Again, Jared Butler at the top, 21 minutes looks good. Peyton Pritchard will look even better now with Sam Hauser out. I would think he's 5,500, just projects really well. Quentin Grimes, a lot of the same players that were point guard eligible. Karis LeVert, not point guard eligible. He is shooting guard and small forward eligible, projected for 29 minutes and 29 fantasy points in a great matchup. What is his game log looked like? He played 31 last time out against Memphis. 27 against OKC. So he's been pretty steadily, at least over the past 4 games, in that upper 20s, low 30s minutes. So the projection looks right where he has been. Only played 22 against Detroit. Yeah, he's played sort of not I wouldn't call it volatile. He's played kind of within a small band to some extent. So 29 minutes looks good. He looks good in 29 minutes. 5,300, great matchup. And only 13% out, so he looks good to me. Lonnie Walker projected for 24 minutes, 18 fantasy points. Cole Anthony again, Dyson Daniels again, Pods, Derek White, Jalen Green, only shooting guard eligible, projected for 34 minutes and 38 fantasy points. Looks like a pretty strong play. Kelly Oubre, 36 minutes, 32 fantasy points. Anybody else standing out here? I mean, we're getting kind of deep into it. I'll sort by fantasy points. Again, Trey Murphy, the top. I shouldn't say again. He was not point guard eligible. 36 minutes and 38 fantasy points. The projection for Trey Murphy. Tough matchup with Houston, but should be a competitive game. 4.5 point spread. Derek White projection probably comes up a little bit with Sam Hauser out. Again, Dyson Daniels looks good. Quentin Grimes. Man, this is we don't have a ton of like super high fantasy projections here. I mean, shooting guard, the top projection is 38 fantasy points. Point guard, it was, I think, a sub 50. Yeah, 48 is the top at point guard. So we are not getting a ton of really big guard scores. But I think that's enough of a shooting guard breakdown. I think I forgot to move my sidebar down. I'll also play around with the optimizer. So I'll go position by position. Then I'll re-upload the unabated projections. Then I'll just kind of show you what I do with the optimizer. All right, so I just did shooting guards. Now I'm going to go on to small forwards. Because I think people sometimes kind of overthink it with the optimizer, do a little bit too much. All right, now I'm going to go small forward. And I honestly probably do too little, like in terms of setting groups and stuff. I think that there are certainly ways that I could improve my process, but well, I'll talk about some of the things that I think people do or don't do that are necessary or unnecessary. All right, going to sort by point per dollar here at small forward. Sam Hauser is out, so he will not be the top there. Let me see if they have updated their. Actually, I'll just look on my computer, see if Unabated has updated their projections here, because I kind of want to see the updated Boston projections. And Philadelphia, maybe they changed a little bit. I don't know. Let's see. Orlando projection updated for Isaac out. Chicago projections updated for Paul out. Those are the last two. So we don't have the update yet for the Celtics. So I'll wait to update the projections there. But we know Sam Hauser not in a small forward. Tatum in there projected for. So now we're finally getting a good fantasy score here, and that is the top currently the top point per dollar play at small forward is Jason Tatum at 10,100 projected for 36 minutes, 57.5 fantasy points. Maybe that goes up. I don't know. Karis LeVert there as well. Franz Wagner again in that first game of the night, Orlando, Chicago. Should be some fantasy goodness there for the Magic. Wagner projected for 36 minutes, 46 fantasy points. George Niang, 25 minutes, 22 fantasy points. Not a ton of great point per dollar. I guess these are more than 5x. Zachary Risache projected for 28 minutes, 23 fantasy points. Again, Kelly Oubre. Justin Edwards projected for, and he was, I believe, questionable, right? Edwards is questionable. Okay. But projects, okay. 29 minutes, 20 fantasy points. Not a great fantasy producer is what that's telling me. LeBron James, 36 minutes, 51.5 fantasy points. I mean, that's kind of intriguing. Just 13% ownership. Low enough that I have some interest there. I don't know that I'll get above the field there. Like Trae Young, I think looks like somebody you want to be above the field on. I don't know. I'd say I think 13% feels fair for LeBron. Aaron Nesmith there again. That Indy Atlanta game, 28 minutes, 23 fantasy points. Looks pretty good. 10% ownership. OG, 37 minutes, 31.5. Cam Johnson. Amon Thompson, always intriguing, but 16% ownership. I was thinking he's pretty low on the list point per dollar, so maybe he would be lower owned, but not projected for low ownership. Projected for 16% ownership. Trey Murphy again looks pretty good. Kevin Herter, I believe, was available. Yeah, must have been. We got all those updates before I uploaded these. Man, Josh Hart, 8,200. 7.5% ownership. I want to like it. Like I want to play Josh Hart at low ownership, but 7.5%, not quite low enough to super intrigue me. Terrence Mann has been a player that I've been playing a lot of when there is not a ton of great value. And then I think tonight is another night that I might play a bit of Terrence Mann. He's been playing pretty big minutes. 29, 26, 29 the past 3 games, 26 the game before that. That just had some opportunities there. He's only 4,200. They're projecting for 25 minutes. But again, there's upside for more minutes there for Terrence Mann. They play him off the bench, but they seem to like him. It's a great matchup. Projected for just 3% ownership. So I do think Terrence Mann is somebody that I probably want to be above weight to the field on. Now, not a great fantasy producer, 25 minutes, 19 fantasy point to projection. Kind of comes down to like what else, what is the opportunity cost of playing him? And I don't feel like the opportunity cost is that high today. So I do think that today is a day that I might take some shots. So, I'm not saying I want to play 30% of him, but I probably want to get 10% Terrence Mann, maybe 15%, something like that. I like he's, in a nice game environment with some minutes upside there at 4,200. He's pretty interesting. Kobe White looks okay. I will be playing the first game. So sometimes, if the game's not great, I would just take it off. And like there's some temptation there where the totals are just 105 and 112.5. Like it's not a great game environment. But with Orlando playing a pace up spot against Chicago, I do think that I want to play at least some Orlando. I don't know that I'll get to much of the Chicago side. Mikal Bridges looks pretty good. 34 minutes, 26 fan. I mean, not great point per dollar wise. All right. I think that's enough of a breakdown of small forward. Oh, we did just get Boston projection updated for Hauser out, TBD on starters. So that's a good note. And that is not rated lock, so we probably won't get those starters prior to the game starting. All right. I am going to I'm going to re-download the unabated projections before we move on to power forward. So let me go do that. I'm going to refresh. I don't know if this automatically updates or requires a refresh. Go to 513. Okay, good. So these ones are going to be updated. Actually, let me close my old. Now I'm going to go to all right. Give me a second here. I'm going to update these. Oops. So I've got those updated. Now I'll go back to Rotogrinders, upload, going to, can I not change it? All right, let's see. I guess I'll just put in here, unabated 514 update. See if that works. Same issues as before, so I'll go quickly through. Make sure all the names match. There's probably a better way to do this. I know I've heard Davis speak of like name matching using ChatGPT, and that's just not in my wheelhouse currently. Clearly something I need to work on. He also makes his Underdog rankings using the unabated projections combined with name matching in ChatGPT, which seems pretty clever. But I am not ready to do that yet. All right, that looks good. Changes to unabated 514 updates. Now we should have the Celtics updated. I think Tatum moved up another. Did he? I think he moved up. Let's see. All right. I'm going to go all point per dollar. Yeah, not huge changes here. Luke Cornett. I guess we haven't gotten to center yet. We'll move on to power forward, sorted by point per dollar, and it's still Tatum at the top of the point per dollar list there. Wait, and Matherin. We just got Matherin out. That's the only downside to using outside projection source and moving it in is that it doesn't automatically update for me, and that's kind of a pain in the ass to do it. Oh, Tyrese Halliburton. Did you say that? What? Okay, that's some big news. Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Matherin is out. TJ McCollum, I assume. Justin Edwards available. Is TJ McCollum in? I assume TJ. Let me look. Thank you. Heads up, Steven. All right. Do all. TJ McConnell, I meant. All right, so I'm wrong about that. Is he already out? All right, so who's the point guard? Is it going to be like Nemhard? Who's going to? We'll have to wait and see. Update the projections. That's some big news. So that's a great game environment against Atlanta. And I missed them. What am I missing here? Why am I not seeing Indy? Philly, Orlando, New York, New Orleans, LA, Houston, Golden State, Chicago, Boston, Brooklyn, Atlanta. What am I doing wrong here? I just don't have the Pacers in there. All right, so I did something wrong here. Here, let's see if I'll move this to RG projections, which are probably not updated. There they are. Okay. Okay. It will be TJ McConnell. I was like, was he? Did I miss? He got injured or something? No, they had him projected for 25 minutes, 32 fantasy points at 3,900. Now he's going to look awesome. Yeah, RG already updated. Good for them. That was quick. One of the benefits of the projections coming straight from the platform you're using, the optimizer you're using. Things change with a lot less work on my end. So maybe we'll just continue here for now. I guess we can look at some of the differences just real quick. I'm going to just go over the positions, point per dollar. So yeah, TJ McConnell jumps to the top using RG. 25 minutes, 32 fantasy points. Looks awesome at 3,900. I think he'll probably get the start. He'll look good. Even off the bench, he would look great, though. Peyton Pritchard, 33 minutes, 34 and a half fantasy points. Jared Butler, a lot of the same players look the best using the RG stuff. Actually, I'm going to click reset here. Okay, it was already reset. Nemhard, 33 minutes, gets a little bump there. 33 minutes, 30 fantasy points at 5,000. Looks pretty good. A lot of the same players, though. At point guard. Luka in there, 36 minutes, 55 and a half fantasy points. Okay, so I was missing some teams earlier. because I didn't have. I must not. I don't think I had Luca in there, but he's projected for 55.5 fantasy points. Huh. I don't know what happened there. Must have been lost in the transition there. Okay. Shooting guard, point per dollar. It is, yeah, Peyton Pritchard, Butler, Nemhard, all the same players as before. Ben Shepherd looks better now with no Tyrese Halliburton and Matherin. 24 minutes, 18 fantasy points. I don't know. That's probably playable just because of the matchup. I often, don't want to lean into players that are not projected for huge fantasy points and they're just in there because they're cheap, but seems playable. Small forward, Franz Wagner at the top, 46 fantasy points. Jason Tatum, Reece Shea, Niang, Jarris Walker, Kelly Oubre, Aaron Nesmith looks good now, 4,800, 30 minutes and 24 and a half. So a little bit better than 5x value. And then power forward, I think is where we left off. And yeah, Pascal Siakam going to look really good here. Now going to have a lot more usage. 33 minutes, 44 fantasy points at 7,500. So Siakam suddenly looks like a really strong point per dollar play. You can see the top point per dollar plays at power forward are all spend ups. You got Paolo, great matchup with the Bulls. He is the thumbnail that I made today. Put Paolo on there. Love the matchup with the Bulls. Projected for 48.5 fantasy points at 8,900. Getting 26% ownership. So I think that's fair. I'm not going to try to be over that. Tatum, 36 minutes, 54 fantasy points again. And then you get down to the, more questionable. Reece Shea, 28 minutes, 23 fantasy points. Obi Toppin, 20 minutes, 20 fantasy points. LeBron. All right. I'm not seeing anybody else that we need to talk about. And then let's move on to center. All right. Looking at the top centers, it is Luke Cornett, the top point per dollar center on the slate. No Kristaps tonight. 4,400 projected for 30 minutes, 26 fantasy points. Miles Turner projects really well. Again, 31 minutes. Just all the Pacers look really good. 31 minutes, 36 fantasy points of projection for Miles Turner. Andre Drummond, 26 minutes, 29 fantasy points. What has his minutes been like with Embiid out? Just 19 in the last game against the Timberwolves. But it seemed the starters did not close that game, if I remember. I guess we can just click on it. The starters just didn't close that game. So he clearly lost some minutes to the blowout there. Sort of blowout. I'm trying to remember what happened. Like, were the Timberwolves up by a lot? I don't know. They only won by 14. So sort of surprising, but maybe the Sixers made a run when it was over. But yeah, so we only played 19 minutes in that game, but we've seen Drummond doing Drummond things. 55 fantasy points against Portland in 28 minutes, just insanity. 31 against Golden State, 31 against New York. So Drummond looks really good, projecting here for 29 fantasy points. Really strong play, I think, at 5,200. Wendell Carter again. It's a revenge game for Wendell Carter against the Bulls. 5,300 projected for 28 minutes and 29 fantasy points. 14% ownership looks pretty good. Nemius Keita, he has a nickname, right? I'm forgetting what his nickname is. But 24 minutes, 21 fantasy points at 3,900. Kongwu looks pretty good. No like amazing value here, but I think some strong plays at the top here. I really like Drummond. Cornette looks good. Turner looks good. Thomas Bryant gets the bump with fewer players available for the Pacers. 17 minutes, 18 fantasy points. Yabusele, he had a little run where he was pretty good for a little while, but just project for 33 minutes, only 25 fantasy points. I still think pretty, certainly playable, but 11% ownership, getting some ownership. Zach Collins, the price has come way up. 6,500. Don't love the matchup. Cat is back. I did not realize. I thought Cat was going to be missing for like weeks with his personal issue. Sounds like his wife's friend passed away. Man, Cat has been he's had some tough times. Feel bad for the guy. 36 minutes, 45 fantasy points. Only 1.5% owned. Like anytime you get Cat at 1.5% owned, I think it's worth doing so. So yeah, sign me up for some Cat as a contrarian play here against the Lakers. No Anthony Davis to contend with there. I mean, Jackson Hayes going to stop him. I think Cat could have a big game here against the Lakers. That stands out as just too low of ownership for Cat. Where is the? I want to look at the position versus archetype a little bit here. Just kind of curious. So you can see the here's the defense versus archetype. Cat is number 2 overall spot for a versatile big, which is what Cat's mean. Versatile big, number 2 overall spot against the Lakers. I have no idea what the time frame is here. If they use like the full season, if it's just like the past 10 days, I'll have to talk with somebody about how that works. But looks like a great spot for Cat against the Lakers, getting no ownership. Sign me up. Sign me up for some Cat. I guess we can look at some other players here. Who's standing out with the best matchups here? Luke Cornett, number 3 overall matchup, and you can see it's up to 30. This is just kind of ranked. The 30 teams. Third best matchup for Luke Cornett. 29th matchup for Andre Drummond against Boston. Okay, but no Kristaps, no Jaylen Brown. Maybe that helps a little. I don't know. But yeah, not a great spot for post bigs against Boston. Should we look at this for all the positions? Does this interest people? I think it's kind of interesting looking at it. Got another half an hour. No, I'll play around with making my lineups. All right. So for me, I'm just going to use these projections to start the RG projections. Now I'm not gonna keep going back and forth with the unabated. Wanted to kind of show you that they have projections, and I don't think a ton of people are using their DFS projections. So I think there's some value in using the unabated projections. But because I'm doing a show, I don't want to keep going back and forth and wasting time. Every time there's an update, I think it's worth it to do if you are just playing. But since I'm doing content, I feel like it's a little bit tougher. They did just update their projections, which is let me see what they've updated for. Yeah, so their latest is Indiana projection updated for Halliburton and Matherin out, TBD on starters there. So that could obviously change the projections further there, but good to know where they are at in their projections. All right. So for me, I'm going to go first to build rules. And I'm just going to choose 10% randomness for each position here. Wait, range of outcomes. Okay, so they don't do it by position. Yeah, I'm just going to do that. Just 10% randomness. Number of unique players. This is a 6-game slate. Usually I'm deciding between 2 or 3 on a 6-game slate. I'm just going to do 2. So each of my lineups is going to be at least 2 players different from the others. I don't set any kind of max exposure here. And I probably not going to, I guess I could set like a $49,000 minimum salary up to 50. Certainly not trying to leave salary on the table in NBA DFS. But I think a minimum salary probably makes sense. I've got a little bit of randomness on. Doesn't really matter typically because the optimizer is trying to give you your top projected lineup. So what it wants to do, it's optimizing. It's trying to give you the top projected lineup. So if you just run one lineup and you don't do anything to your settings, it's just going to give you the top projected lineup overall. Typically, like you don't need to set minimums because just the higher the dollar player is, typically the projection is going to reflect that, and usually just the top optimal lineups are going to be pretty like use most of the salary cap anyway in NBA DFS. And like I care more about the projection than the amount of dollars used. But for NBA, I think setting some minimum there makes some sense, especially when you have some randomness on. Let's see. I don't do any kind of minimum fantasy points per player threshold. If a player makes it into my lineup with a projection of 3 because I needed that player to make the lineup work, then fine. I care more about the lineup projection. And again, it's trying to give you the top projected lineup, so there's no need to set that kind of a rule, in my opinion. I think we're good. I think that's all I need to do here. Players per team. I usually set it at 3. I'm gonna just do 4 for now. I think there's I'll see what they look like. Like, am I getting too many lineups with 4 Pacers players? If I am, then I might change that to 3. Um, because they make up so much of the best value, I think 4 would make sense. I don't know. That's tough call here. And I don't do any kind of custom settings. Um, any groups. So this is for me. I think that it's a hole in my game that I don't set enough groups, and I usually don't set any. So because I usually set max 3 per team, I usually just leave it at that, and it kind of groups players out how I want them to be anyway. There are sometimes exceptions where I'll set a rule of like don't use both of these centers from the same team, which is something I could do today. I'm trying to think of who I'd want to do. Like the Pacers, there's probably some groups that I should consider setting for the Pacers, but I don't think that I have a good enough read on those groups to set a ton of player groups. And I don't think it's hindered me a ton. Um, I only do like when I'm confident that I don't want these 2 players together, and I'll see after I run after I run my lineups, if I see like, oh, I don't want those 2 players together, maybe I'll come back and set some groups, but I don't start with them personally. I also don't set any kind of rules for like force this player at this position, and that's something that I know a lot of people do it for, like NFL. Don't require a tight end in the flex, or NBA. Don't play this player at point guard if they're shooting guard eligible. Only play them at shooting guard. I don't think you need to set those kind of rules because I think the projection just takes care of it for you. Like I like getting the top projected, and then if my lineup projects better with that player at point guard instead of shooting guard, like I'll just let the optimizer take care of it for me. Most of the time, it's just going to, if a player's available at both, it's just going to put them in the shooting guard spot anyway, because typically the point guards can be better point per dollar plays. But so I don't think you need to set that kind of rule because it does it for you anyway. But then also, I just don't want to hinder it too much. I want it to give me the highest projected lineup. So I don't set a ton of rules here. And now I'm just going to run lineups, and I am playing 200 lineups tonight across 3 or 4 different contests. I have to modify my player pool. And to do that, I'm changing a couple projections by 0.01. Appreciate that. Wheels Up says, I do appreciate the NBA content and I would watch it tonight, but I'm too busy to watch basketball because I'm still watching you. A great content profile you did with Fast Eddie Fear. It was a fun conversation with Eddie. I thought Nuke apparently does not agree. I don't know if that's necessarily who he's referring to, but since he said interviewed, I'm assuming that's what he's referring to. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I like Eddie. I think he's a really sharp guy, really sharp DFS analyst. So I had fun doing that. Glad you're enjoying it. Wheels up. Now I guess I can move this down to lineups. That's where we're at now. I also got a little bit tipsy doing that. I did not realize until after that the beer that I was drinking. I had 2 of them during the show, 9.8% ABV, which not a little bit stronger than I'm typically drinking. All right, so here's where we're at. After running 200 lineups, I have 100% TJ McConnell, 77% Peyton Pritchard, 73% Pascal Siakam, 51% Jason Tatum, 49% Paolo Banchero, 44% Quentin Grimes, So now for me, the way I approach this, so first I'm going to look at my lineups. Am I okay playing TJ McConnell and Andrew Nemhard and Pascal Siakam? Yep, only got 3 paces in that first lineup, so that's good to see that I'm not getting 4 in every lineup. Um, Franz and Paolo, I know some people might set a rule not to play them together, but I think I'm okay getting Franz. Like they're both projected like a well. I think I wouldn't be shocked if they both put up 55 fantasy points. So that to me is not a rule that I need to set. Now it's also because I'm playing 200 lineups. Maybe if I were only playing 10 lineups using an optimizer, I might set more rules. So yeah, I think there's something to that also, that like you might want to set more rules if you're playing fewer lineups, but since I'm playing 200 across contests, I am only I'm not setting a ton of rules. Jared Butler and Quentin Grimes, no issue getting them together. So far, I haven't seen any players that I'm like, oh, I really don't want those two together. Yeah, I think I'm good. I'm good with the way these lineups are looking. Um, I'm going to go back and adjust things though. So a big part of my process is just figuring out how much do I want of different players, which I enjoy just kind of getting to the player pool that I want and assuming because the optimizer is trying to give me the highest projected lineups. I'm assuming that if I have 4% of cat, for example, like if I play 4% cat, it's not going to give me cat in a bunch of lineups that are just a lot of those players who don't project extremely well point per dollar. It's not going to give me a really low projected lineup because the optimizer is trying to give me the highest projected lineup. Now it's possible I happen to get a lineup of 8 players that all of them in that lineup are getting because I have 10% random sum. They're all getting a boost of 10% on their projection, and then I could get a lineup that doesn't project that well, but it's not going to happen that often. So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but all right, let's take a look. I'm going to go and I like to go position by position. Sometimes after lock, I'll switch and just look team by team, like how much am I getting to different players. But I like to start just going position by position, sorting by salary and seeing how much I'm getting. So currently I'm getting to 0.5% Luca. I think I'd like more than that of Luca. He's projected for 13% ownership. So I know I have to give him a little bit of a projection boost here. Also getting to 0.5% of Trae Young. I really like Trae Young tonight. So I'm going to give him a pretty significant boost. I can see if I give him a projection of 50, that's 2.4 fantasy point boost. Still is just barely better than 5x value though. So I don't think I'm going to suddenly get 40% Trae Young. So I'll start with that. Steph Curry 0.5%. I'm mostly okay with that. I'm not going to give him a huge boost here, but I'll give him a little boost just to make sure I still probably want some exposure, I think. Jalen Brunson, 9,100. Played against the Lakers. I can give him a 3-point boost here, basically, from 42 to 45. He's still not even a 5x value at 9,100. So like 4,500 is basically you double it. So 45, double that would be 90. It's basically so 9. If he was 9,000, he would be 5x value at 4,500. So I give him a pretty significant boost. I'm still not going to get a ton, but I think I want some Jalen Brunson against the Lakers. Like he can just go off at any moment. Amin Thompson, I'm at 9.5%. Now, because I'm boosting other players and projections, they're all relative. Because I'm boosting other players, I'm sort of, in a sense, negatively boosting. I'm docking Amin Thompson relative to the other players that I'm boosting. So just to if I want to keep him at 9.5%, probably need to give him just a little bit of a boost here. Josh Giddey, I think I'm probably okay not getting any Josh Giddey. He's only projected for 0.74% ownership though, which is sort of intriguing to me. So maybe I'll give him a pretty significant boost that's still pretty well below 5x, and maybe I'll get to 1.5% and be happy with that. Austin Reeves against the Knicks got to 0%. Going to boost him a little bit. Derek White, I'm at 36.5%. If I don't boost him at all, not necessarily. Sometimes because I have randomness on and stuff, it doesn't necessarily bring down how much I'm getting to of a player. but I think I'm okay leaving him at his current projection. This probably moves down a little bit. Maybe it moves down to upper 20%, something like that. I think I'd be okay with that with Derek White. So I think I'm just going to leave him as is. CJ McCollum, only projected for 1.5% ownership. Tough matchup. I probably don't want a ton of CJ McCollum. I'll give him a tiny boost and probably still won't get any. Dyson Daniels, I do like. Just that matchup. I think I want to kind of attack that Pacers Hawks matchup in general. So I'm only getting 5% Dyson Daniels. I think he's a player that I actually want to force a little bit more. So I'm going to bring that up to 37. Now he's better than 5x value. 34 would be 5x value at 6,800. And he was already a little bit better than 5x value, and I got to 5%. I'm going to boost him up all the way up to 37, see what happens there. Cam Thomas, I think I'm mostly okay not getting any, but let's see. He's only projected for 27 minutes, 30.5 fantasy points. So they're giving him a little bit of a increase on where he's been. Yeah, I think I'd be okay not getting Cam Thomas. Quentin Grimes, damn, getting 43%. Again, I don't think I'm going to boost him at all. I'll probably get slightly less because of the changes I've made to other players. I'm okay with that. Pods, only at 4% currently. Just going to move him up. I think I want to stay around 4%. I don't know. Peyton Pritchard, currently getting 76.5% exposure. He projects really well. I want to come down on that number. For now, I'm just going to leave his projection where it is, because I think I'll naturally come down a little bit. I want to see if there's any other news. Gary Payton available to play. Is that the latest? That's all we've gotten? Okay. D'Lo. Do I want to get any D'Lo? Checked for 25 minutes. I think I'm okay not getting there. I do want to get some Cole Anthony. I think just the matchup is so good. Could see more minutes, I think, than 26. I don't know. He hasn't since February 21st, but it's just such a strong matchup. Doesn't really need that many more minutes to. I'm just going to give him. Just want to make sure I get to some Cole Anthony. Trey Jones could get the start, right? Do we have that lineup? That's the first game of the night. We should be getting that lineup. If we haven't already, I'll check in on chat, see if anybody's. All right. A lot of news for tomorrow. A lot of, Jalen Williams out. Shea is out tomorrow. Interesting. Oh, we did get the Bulls. So we got Trey Jones is starting. Kobe White, Josh Giddey, Bazelis, and Zach Collins. He's still projected for just 25 minutes. Right? Maybe I need to project for 25 minutes. Is there somebody else that's in that was out for the last game? So he played 33 minutes the last game as a starter. Do we have somebody come back for the Bulls? Let's see. Collins, White, Buzelis. Dalen Terry started that one. Okay, so who? Oh, we got Giddey. Giddey was out for that game. Okay. Interesting. I think it still seems like a little bit of a light minutes projection there for Trey Jones. Also, it went to my high school, so I got to get some Trey Jones, right? He's starting. He could play 30 plus minutes. I'm gonna bring him up to 25. Make sure I get to some. Apple Valley High School represent. Terrence Mann talked about. I have some interest just because I think he could play 29 minutes. Would not be at all surprising. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a boost. So bring him up to 21. That would be 5x. I'll bring him up to 22. Anthony Black. It's a great matchup. Yeah, he hasn't really seen much of a spike. Played 27 against Washington. Don't want to get too far off the projections, I think, with that type of player. TJ McConnell. So I'm at 99.5% TJ McConnell. Even if I don't change his projection, I think I'm going to stay. I'd still get about this much. So I'm going to bring down his projection just a little bit. I still want to get a lot. He's only projected for 25 minutes. There's obviously upside for more. But I'm going to move him down. I'm still going to get to a bunch. All right. Jared Butler, 28.5% looks good. Okay. Shooting guard. Now I'm going to try and speed up a little bit here. Trey Murphy, just going to give a little bit of a boost because I am getting to 0.5%. You can see this is the column where it's showing my actual exposure. If you haven't noticed, Austin Reeves already gave a boost because he was point guard eligible. Jalen Green getting to 10.5% looks good. Kobe White, I don't want to get to a ton of Kobe White. I'll give him a little bit of a boost and maybe get to some. Derek White, again, already there, already moved up. Dyson Daniels. Kelly Oubre, I'm getting 14.5%. Quentin Grimes, 43.5%. Probably comes down a bit with some of the changes I made. Mikal Bridges, do I want more than, I'm getting to 0. Project for 2.5% ownership. I'll give him a little of a boost. He's still below 5x. Let God take the wheel. Brandon Pods, 4%. I'm getting 76.5% Peyton Pritchard. Do I want to just bring down his projection at all? Because I don't know that I want that much Peyton Pritchard. I am going to bring down his projection just slightly. On top of moving others up. Karis LeVert, I think is pretty interesting. Again, I'm attacking that game. So I'm going to move him up to 27 fantasy points. Nemhard looks good. I already moved up Cole Anthony. Neesmith, I'm getting to 8%. It's going to bring that up to 25 projection. Don't know that I need to play anybody down here. Not getting to anybody. I think I'm okay with it. Getting Jared Butler. A little bit of Ben Shepherd. I do love that matchup. Just move him up to try and still get a little bit. And obviously, the matchup should be accounted for in the projection. I do kind of want to have some a good amount of exposure to that game environment. Getting a 50% Tatum. I think I'm going to leave his projection as is. I don't think I want 50% Tatum, but I think as I move other players, I'll probably get to less. Zion, I'm only getting to 1.5%. I'm going to boost Zion just a little bit, try and get above that number. It's projected for 4% ownership. Amin Thompson. Josh Hart does intrigue me, kind of. Cat is back, so it kind of takes away some of the rebounding upside. Already moved Trey Murphy up. All right. Niang. Okay. Moving on. Power forwards. Paolo, I'm getting to 48.5%. Damn. Okay. Siakam, 72.5%. Wouldn't mind if that number came down a little bit. He obviously looks great. I like getting to a lot. I don't know that I want quite 72.5%, but we'll leave it for now. Yabusele. I kind of want to. I think he can spike an upside, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a boost. Okay. And then finally, centers. Not getting any cat, and like I said, I wanna make sure I get to some cat. So I'm gonna give him a big boost from 45. I'm moving him all the way up to 50 fantasy points. He's still just barely better than 5x at 50 fantasy points. So I still don't think I'm gonna get a ton of cat, but I want to get to more than 2% certainly. Upper and Şengün. Similarly, I think I want to get to some Şengün, so I'm gonna move him up to a little over 47. Zach Collins, I'm torn. He's been pretty damn good. 3 of the past 4, at least 43 fantasy points. Tough matchup with Orlando. I'm going to move him up just a little bit. Wendell Carter. Give me that revenge. See Wendell Carter and Andre Drummond. I'm both getting to 12.5%. Wendell Carter, 23.5%. Andre Drummond. And they project about the same, but Drummond is 100 cheaper than Wendell Carter, and also getting more ownership. I don't want to cut away from the Drummond though. I think I'm going to boost them both just a little bit more. Capella, I'm getting a 0.5%. That's a rule that I could set. I don't want to get both Capella and Okongwu. I don't think I'm getting to enough that I'm going to worry about it, but point that out. All right. I am probably want to set a rule no Cornet with Kada. Maybe I will set that rule. Go to groups, new group. Players to use 0 to 1. Making sure I'm not screwing up how I want to do this. So I'm not using a conditional player. This is my group. I'm using 0 to 1 players from this group. I think this is, yeah, that's all I need to do. Okay. So there you go. Made a group. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to run my 200 lineups again after those changes. And usually if I'm not trying to talk through this and do it on a show, I'll do this 15 times while I'm just like listening to other shows or just like, I don't know. Usually I do this a lot quicker than I'm doing it on a show as I'm trying to explain the reasoning. It slows me down a little bit. Steven says Eddie was so good at NBA DFS content. Yeah, he was great, and he is just an interesting dude. I agree with that. All right, so now I'm still getting to 100% TJ McConnell, 72% Pascal Siakam, 61% Peyton Pritchard, 50% Paolo, 46% Nemhard. So now I'm going to do it much quicker, and before I go through, I'm going to delete my first build, because if you leave both builds in, then it's going to give you actual exposure that includes both of your builds. So I always make sure I delete the first one, only have my most recent build as I make adjustments. All right, now I'm just going to do this all one more time real quick. I'll start point guard. Luka, 4.5%. Trey, 4.5%. Like I said, I want to get to more Trey there, so I'm just going to boost him a little bit more significantly here. I do still want to make. I'll give Luka another boost too. Don't care as much about Curry. Probably do want some more Brunson. I'm hurrying now a little bit, so I'm not going to be as granular with every player. Dyson Daniels, 18.5%. I think I do want some more. Grimes, I'm leaving. Pritchard, 61%. I'm going to move him down a little bit more. Want a little bit more Cole Anthony, I think. Want some more Trey. Because he's starting. I think there's upside in the minutes there. Even if he's not the best point per dollar producer. Terrence Mann, like I said, I want to get to some. Give him a little bit of a boost. I'm going to move McConnell down more. I already moved him down 3.3 fantasy points already. Still getting to 99.5%. So I'm only changing one more time. I'm just going to go down to 27.8. There's some volatility there. All right, shooting guards. Trey Murphy, I want to get a little bit, I think. Getting to 1% currently. Reeves, I'm going to move up slightly. Dyson Daniels, Derek White. I think I'm mostly okay with these. I'm going to move down Pritchard slightly more. Wait, did I already do that? No. Okay, good. Levert, I'm going to move up a little bit more for the matchup. Also revenge, right? All right. Small forward, I got to hurry up here. I might have to just run this. Moving Paolo down slightly. So I don't think I want 50%. Siakam, I'm going to move down slightly. All right. I am too far behind here, so I just need to run it. All right, running it. Do want to get Pat a little bit more, though. All right, we're building. And while that is running, I'm going to go download. All right, much quicker when I don't use the true range randomness. It's good to see. Still don't have any Şengün. Don't love that, but whatever. All right, so still at 98% TJ McConnell. That's just where we're at, I guess. If he's not starting, maybe I'll go to my way to move down my exposure before that game starts. But got to get these lineups in. All right. There. Got some lineups in. We've only got one game locking right now, right? Let me look. Yeah, only the Chicago-Orlando game is locking right this second. So those are really the only players I need to worry about that much right now. And I can make adjustments to the others before the next game starts. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but for the purpose of my DFS, it's unfortunate that I'm going out to dinner at 6:30, so in half an hour. So I won't have a chance to necessarily wait on all of the news, or I can try and do it on my phone, I suppose. But there we go. We are at lock. I have done my process. Sometimes there's a little bit more to it. Usually there's a lot more runs of like running the lineups, going back, checking what they look like, making adjustments, etc., etc. Didn't really have time to do that while doing the show, but yeah, there's some thoughts on how to use the optimizer. We just got the Sixers lineup. I believe it's exactly as expected. Grimes, Oubre. Oh, maybe that is different because we had Jared Butler. as a potential starter there. But he was only projected for 21 minutes. So I think that's probably as expected for the Sixers lineup. Yeah, I just got the notification from Unabated Sixers lineup as expected. So no changes there from Unabated, at least. That's the only lineup we've gotten so far. I got to get out of here. I do have dinner coming up, but appreciate you guys hanging out with me as I went through my NBA process. Hopefully you found it at least somewhat interesting. All right. If you haven't done so, please do like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, trying to grow the channel. Check out my interview with Fast Eddie Fear from last night. I thought it was a really interesting conversation. It did go for 3 hours, so I don't know if you want to sign up for 3 hours. You can listen to it on 2x speed in an hour and a half. But I had a good time with that one. I am going to get out of here. Good luck, everybody. Hope you make some money. Sign up for Unabated. I'll catch you next time.